It's time now for our focus segment, and today we head over to South America. On March the 11th, Colombians are expected to vote in the country's congressional elections. And for the first time, there will be candidates from the Revolutionary Alternative Common Force, which used to be Colombia's Revolutionary Armed Forces, also known as FARC. But they are finding it hard to find a place on that political stage in a country that's still reeling from the impact of a 50-year conflict.
Just a year ago, this scene would have been unthinkable. Whether former fighters, hardline militants or young converts, FARC sympathizers are no longer hiding.
Somos FARC, somos del común. Somos FARC, somos del común.
They are the People's Army. They have been fighting for us for years.
The former guerrilla group kept its acronym and became a political party, the Common Revolutionary Alternative Force. It chose a red rose as its symbol. In Ciudad Bolívar, a working-class neighborhood in the south of Bogota, the FARC are launching their campaign under police protection.
Good afternoon, Ciudad Bolívar.
On stage is Rodrigo Londoño, alias Timochenko, or Timo to his followers. As a candidate to the presidential election to be held next May, he wants to reach out to the underprivileged.
Colombia needs a real democracy, one that hears everyone's voices. The millions of poor people that no one cared about, those who were never listened to, we should let them decide about their future. Their call for social justice should be heard.
With 2% of voting intentions in the polls, his chances of winning are very low, but militants are impressed.
Long live the common force.
He talks to us in a way we understand. And he's really someone who wants to fight for equality.
But the party does not last long. In the first few days of his campaign, Timochenko is assaulted by angry citizens in 2 cities of western Colombia. The FARC accuse their political enemies, supporters of former President Álvaro Uribe, of setting up these attacks and call time on their campaign. After that, Timochenko's public appearances are scarce. He proposes a non-aggression pact to other political parties, but receives no answer.
Good morning. We wanted to find a more comfortable place for everyone, but we don't have the money.
The former guerrilla group has allegedly handed all its assets to the state to compensate victims, and it has not yet received the statutory funding to finance their campaign.
I feel that my good faith was betrayed, as well as that of the organisation. It's not so much the campaign that's at stake here, but the peace process itself, which, as many people said, they're trying to destroy.
The health of the party's leader has taken a hit. The day after his final press conference, Timochenko faints. With upcoming open heart surgery, he pulls out of the race for presidency, citing health reasons. In spite of the difficulties, the party finally inaugurates their campaign headquarters in Bogota 3 weeks before the general election. Entry control is strict, the fear of an attack palpable. Since laying down their arms last year, about 40 former guerrillas have been assassinated throughout the country.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the People's Headquarters here in Bogota. Please come in. There is still room at the back.
The party's funds are still non-existent. The campaign money promised by the state is nowhere to be seen.
Okay, so today we're inaugurating our party's donation box. So please, pass it around to everyone. And if you can, please make a voluntary contribution.
These men and women are on the FARC's list of parliamentary candidates for the city of Bogota. They want campaigning in the capital to continue.
We have reinstated some public events, and actually, we're doing very well in Bogota. It's a city where critical thinking is allowed and debates are welcome.
But after half a century of war, Spreading the former guerrilla's message on the streets is no mean feat.
It takes time. It's a process, an educational process through which we have to cure all this hatred against the FARC.
Half of the FARC's candidates in Bogota are not former fighters. They come from social movements, like Andrés Camacho, a university maths professor.
On March 11th, there'll be elections, so be sure to make the right choice.
But in Colombia, politics are highly discredited, and the wounds of conflict not yet healed. The implementation of a special tribunal established by the peace accord to judge war crimes has been delayed. Many citizens fear that the abuses committed during the conflict will go unpunished.
I know they laid down their arms and they stopped kidnapping people, but they're still guerrilla fighters. I don't want to see them in politics. I want to see them serving sentences in jail, because they're criminals.
Good afternoon, nice to meet you. I'm Andrés Camacho. I'm one of the candidates for the FARC party.
What FARC militants are primarily hoping for from this campaign is to be accepted by society.
But that's the idea of the peace agreement, right? That we participate in democracy, that we discuss ideas and leave the confrontation behind.
Whatever the result of the election, the peace accord grants the FARC 10 seats in parliament. But it could be a while yet until the reconciliation between Colombians becomes a reality.
For analysis on this, let's bring in Olivier Dabin, who's a professor at Sciences Po. Is there really a place for the former FARC rebels in Colombia's political scene? Of course, two reasons were given for Rodrigo Londono to pull out of that presidential race in May. One was his health problems, and of course the other was the attacks by the right wing.
Yes, well, it's going to take time before the FARC can be a usual, normal political party. You don't bury the past that easily after 50 years of a very deadly conflict. I mean, killing 200,000 Colombians, more than 7 million displaced. It's really going to take a while before Colombia is back to a normal political life.
Now, has the Revolutionary Alternative Common Force, in your opinion, been smart in that they've been appealing to the poor, the more rural communities who are very much, at this point, dissatisfied with the current state of politics?
Well, usually the poor in Colombia, they don't vote. Colombia has a very serious issue with the voter turnout. So their bet is that dialoguing with the poor will make them actually cast their vote, which is not that stupid. But now that they don't have a presidential candidate, it's going to be a little bit more difficult, of course.
Now, how would you expect the FARC transition into political life to go after these elections?
Well, what they're probably looking for is to negotiate with the rest of the leftist political forces so that they can build an alliance and support another candidate for the presidential election. Thing is, it's going to be very difficult because no other leftist party want them to support them. So they were probably wrong to preserve their acronym FARC. It's so unpopular in Colombia. No one really wants to build an alliance with them right now.
Now, you've just been talking to us about all these challenges that exist, and we know that 74 candidates are running. They're guaranteed 10 seats. Very briefly, do we expect them to get anything more than that?
No, I don't think so. If we believe in the polls, Timochenko, before stepping down, was credited of less than 2% support. So it's a very tiny political force right now. So they're lucky to have guaranteed 10 seats in Congress, because otherwise they would probably have much less than that.
Olivier Dabin, a professor at Sciences Po, thank you so much for speaking to us here on France 24 on what you referred to as a small political force that is now running in Colombia's congressional elections. That's it from the newsroom. Do stay tuned for more news coming up very shortly.